So let's begin with introduction. First, let's start with the basic idea that exchange rate fluctuation can have a significant impact on a company's performance, stability, and strategic decision. As businesses expand internationally, they are increasing exposed to variation in exchange rate. This means that even slight currency fluctuation can affect their overall financial health, influencing everything from cost to profitability and long-term planning. Next, influence on business operation. Currency fluctuation can influence a variety of key business factors, including cost, which can increase or decrease depending on the value of the currency. Second, profitability, as profit margins are often squeezed and widened by currency shift. Next, competitiveness, since companies might find it harder to compete if their currency weakness. Last but not least, strategic planning, where companies need to account for the risk when designing long-term strategy. Other than that, varying impact across businesses model. Not all businesses are affected the same way by exchange rate fluctuation. For example, businesses with large foreign exchange debt are more vulnerable of devaluation as they face higher debt servicing costs. On the other hand, export-oriented firms may be benefit when their local currency depreciation as their product become cheaper and more competitive in foreign market. It is crucial for businesses to understand exchange rate volatility because it impacts both their financial decision and the broader economic stability. Exchange rate influence investors' confidence and can affect the sustainability of international trade. Finally, importance of strong policies. Businesses cannot manage this risk alone. It is essential for government to implement strong macroeconomic policies. These policies can help mitigate the impact of exchange rate fluctuation. The first one, reducing financial instability, addressing increased production costs, and maintaining global competitiveness in international market.
Now, we're moving on to the problems. Our first issue is the financial vulnerability from foreign currency debt. As the slide shows, depreciation increased the debt burden for firms with USD and Euro liabilities. This weakened balance sheets and reduced their borrowing capacities. Companies with high exposure often reduce leverage and cut back on investment. For multinationals operating across several countries, the risk is even greater, as the impact is multiplied across market, putting financial strain on the firm and limiting global competitiveness. The second problem is distorted export competitiveness and rising import costs. As you can see from the slide, a weaker currency can make export cheaper, benefiting firms that rely on international sales. At the same time, the cost of imported input, machineries, and technology rise. This increased production costs and squeeze profit margin. To cope, companies have constantly adjust sourcing and manufacturing strategy to balance the benefit to export with higher input costs. The third challenge is reduced value add in the global supply chain. The slide shows that currency appreciation like stronger RMB increase production costs and reduce a country contribution to global manufacturing. Multinations may shift production to lower cost countries such as Vietnam, Indonesia, or Thailand. This disrupts supplier relationships and make cross-border coordination more complex. Companies may also move from labor-intensive to capital or technology-intensive productions. Delivering cost structure and pricing are all affected, forcing firms to re-engineer their global supply chain. The final problem is high production costs for import-dependent industry. As shown on the slide, depreciation rise costs for companies that rely on import machineries, equipment, and raw materials. This complicates budgets, inventory management, and supplier contracts. Companies may need to cut production, adjust prices, or switch to local sourcing. Investment in expansion is often discouraged. Overall, depreciation can strain local supply chain and reduce profitability for import-dependent firms, even if export is benefited.
Next, we move to the key concept framework and also real-world case. The first one is the balance sheet channel, which show how exchange rate movements affect multinational firms through foreign currency debt exposure. When a domestic currency depreciates, the value of foreign currency debt increases in local currency terms, while asset values remain unchanged. This immediately weakens a firm's financial position and increases leverage. As a result, firms face tighter financial conditions, reduce access to external financing, and often delay or reduce investment to maintain liquidity. This effect is especially strong for multinational companies operating across multiple currency zones because currency exposure accumulates across subsidiaries and affect overall financial performance. This situation can be seen in real-world cases. For example, companies with large amounts of US dollar debt, such as firms in aviation and infrastructure sectors, face rising debt burdens during periods of currency depreciation and were forced to restructure debt or cut investment. In countries like Japan, firms also increase the use of hedging strategies during currency weakness to prevent foreign currency liabilities from inflating their balance sheet. These examples show how depreciation increases financial vulnerability for multinational firms. The second concept is trade competitiveness and price transmission effect. Exchange rate movements influence multinational firms by changing export prices and production costs. When a currency depreciates, export become cheaper for foreign consumers, which increase demand by imported machinery, technology, and components become more expensive. This creates a trade-off for multinational firms. While export performance improves, production costs rise for companies that rely on import inputs, putting pressure on profit margin. Firms often respond by adjusting sourcing strategies, renegotiating supplier contracts, increasing hedging activities, or changing pricing strategies. This dual effect is clearly visible in real-world industries such as automotive and electronics manufacturing. During periods of weak currency, exporters benefit from stronger overseas sales and higher foreign currency earnings. However, when the currency strengthens, firms lose price competitiveness in key markets and profitability declines. Similar pattern can be seen in electronic manufacturing, where export demand improves during depreciation, but the cost of imported components increase. Overall, exchange rate movements create both opportunities and challenges for multinational. First, real effective exchange rates, or REAR. It measures a country currency value against a major currencies adjusted for inflation. So REAR is important because it affects a country's global competitiveness. When a currency appreciates, production and labor costs increase, so it making a labor-intensive and mid-tier manufacturing less attractive. So as a response, firms adjust their strategies. Many companies outsource production to a lower-cost countries such as Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand. At the same time, they keep the capital-intensive or high-value production in the original country. So firms may also invest in automation and shift toward the higher-value products. China is a clear real-world example. When the RMB strengthened, labor and assembly costs increased, so it causing China to lose some regional competitiveness. As a result, multinational firms began re-evaluating large-scale production in China. So this led to a global value chain shift, where manufacturing in electronics, apparel, and consumer goods moved to the Southeast Asia. So for example, Apple supplier relocated their production to Vietnam between 2017 and 2022, while China focused more on high-end manufacturing.
Next, import cost pass-through occurs when the currency depreciation increases the cost of imported materials and machinery, especially in import-dependent countries like Indonesia. So this creates operational risks such as lower profit margin and unstable financial planning. So to manage this, firm raise prices, reduce production, and diversify the suppliers or use financial hedging. In Indonesia, a weaker rupiah increased costs in manufacturing and pharmaceutical, it reducing the competitiveness and forcing firms to adjust their operation.
For my part, I will be presenting on the impact of exchange rate fluctuations on multinational firms, investors, and national economies. In a globalized economy, companies operate across borders using multiple currencies. As a result, changes in exchange rate can affect cost, profit, investment decision, and financial stability, especially in trade-dependent economies such as China, Japan, and Indonesia. First, exchange rate fluctuation is significantly affect multinational firms. When the currency depreciates, the value of foreign currency debt increases in local terms. This raises leverage and weakens balance sheets, forcing firms to allocate more resources to debt servicing instead of investment. Financial risk is therefore higher for firms that rely on foreign financing or operate across volatile currency market. Exchange rate also influence competitiveness. A weaker yen improves Japanese export competitiveness by lowering foreign prices, but it also raises costs for imported inputs. In contrast, appreciation of China renminbi reduces export competitiveness and market share. Evidence shows that appreciation of the real effective exchange rate weakens China's value-added export performance. Second, exchange rate volatility affects investor behavior and financial markets. Currency instability increases uncertainty and perceived risk. Higher corporate leverage leads to falling stock prices and greater market volatility, particularly in emerging markets. Investor confidence is also shaped by trade performance. Exchange rate-driven fluctuations in export profit affect expectation in export-oriented industry. In China and Indonesia, currency appreciation or volatility discourages long-term investment and reduces confidence in firms involved in global value chains.
Exchange rate fluctuations have a major impact on national economies, especially those with high foreign currency debt. When a currency depreciates, the cost of repaying foreign debt increases, which tightens the credit conditions and reduces investment. This can reduce economic growth and increase the financial instability. On the other hand, currency appreciation can reduce export competitiveness and weaken a country's position in global value chains, as seen in China. In countries like Indonesia, exchange rate volatility also raises import costs, leading to higher inflation and uncertainty in economic planning. Overall, unstable exchange rates make it harder for governments to maintain sustainable growth and economic stability.
To conclude, exchange rate fluctuation have a significant impact on investor, national economy, and multinational cooperation. Not all businesses are equally affected by currency depreciation or appreciation. The intent of exposure depends on factors like foreign currency borrowing, reliance on import, and integration into global value chain. The impact of currency depreciation is raises the value of foreign currency debt, especially in emerging nations, increasing financial strain. It can boost export competitiveness, but also raise production costs for import-dependent businesses. Fluctuation also affect global value chain. For example, China currency appreciation reduces competitiveness, while Indonesian depreciation raises input costs, putting pressure on profit margin. This fluctuation impact firm profitability, investor sentiment, and national competitiveness. That managing exchange rate risk is essential for long-term success. Government and multinational cooperation must adopt strong monetary policies and risk management strategy to navigate these challenges and ensure long-term growth. Let's move to recommendation. The first one is strengthen foreign currency risk management. Businesses should adopt comprehensive hedging strategies such as forward contracts and currency swap. These to help stabilize cash flow and reduce earning volatility, especially for firms with significant foreign currency debt. The second one is expand local sourcing and diversifying supply chain. Company can reduce exposure to currency fluctuation by diversifying production location and increase local sourcing. This reduces dependence on import, which become more expensive. The third one is enhance technology adoption and operational efficiency. Investing in technology, including automation and digitalization, can improve efficiency and lower production costs. As by doing this, promote macroeconomic stability and strong FX market infrastructure. Policymakers should strengthen regulation to limit currency mismatch and access to foreign borrowing. Maintaining macroeconomic stability is essential for building investing confidence and reducing exchange rate risk.